Welcome to data visualization learning session. Today, we'll be talking about cognitive load and clutter. In last session, we defined what a cognitive load is. Today, we'll be talking about clutter. Have you seen clutter in your life? I'm sure you have because you know it when you see it. That's the definition of clutter. Now, in my desk, while I'm speaking, I see lots of books and paper in my desk. That's a clutter because either they should be filed or they should be thrown in the trash. So these are things which you will see, and when you see it, you will know it. In the same way, in data visualization, there are stuff which are clutter. That is, those are things that can be removed, and you could still preserve the key ideas of a data visualization. And by removing those, you are able to have a more meaningful presentation. And because of that, it is easier for the audience to understand the presentation much more better. Therefore, there is a direct relationship between the cognitive load and a clutter. Now, when we have a presentation, the best way to remove clutter is to by reducing that we don't need. If you reduce clutter, then as a result, it's going to improve the reduce the cognitive load of the reader or the audience, and it helps to improve the effectiveness of a visualization. And that's a general rule. Now, let's move on to some example to get into more topic deeply. This is a visualization developed by USDA. And background is that this is a regular report published by USDA, Economic Research Service. It is published by people who are renowned scientists or researchers. They collect data and report on these. Now, looking at this chart, can you tell me where are the clutters and how it can be removed? Let me tell you. From what I see is that this chart has a few things that are outstanding clutters. For example, 3D effect. It's always known to have a 3D effect in a chart unless we are doing a 3D graph or three-dimensional mapping of something. Secondly, we have a dark lines here, and having a dark lines in a graph distracts away from the key information that we want to present to the user, that is a graph itself, the numbers. It distracts from that. That's why it is not good to have dark grid lines. Thirdly, overuse of bright lights. There are certain ways to use lights or colors in the graph, and overuse of them distracts the user from reading the graph. There are more deep sessions regarding how to use the right color balance in a graph in later, which we'll talk about. Fourthly, in this graph, there are bars from left to right, and there's no any apparent sorting of the graph, those bars. And having some kind of sorting would definitely help the user or the reader to understand what is going on. And fifthly, the axis, not x and y axis, do not actually represent or do not have a meaningful definition for a user to understand what is actually going on here. So it's not that helpful that much. Now, this is all I have. In the end, let me quickly summarize what we learned today. We learned about clutter. What is the definition of clutter? and how can minimizing a clutter can help a reader to read a graph effectively. And we give example of a graph by USDA, and we took the graph and dissected to see what are the issues with the graph in terms of clutter. We saw 5 different examples of clutter in the graph and how those removing by that you can actually make the graph more readable to the user. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next learning session. Thank you so much.